national collaborating women's organizations who protect and advance the rights of women and their families of African descent. We are pleased to host this event in collaboration with our 24 national collaborating organization. This month-long webinar series is a continuation. This month-long webinar series is a continuation of our financial webinar series launched last year. This year, the webinars will be held every Thursday evening this month at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So now let's begin our program tonight. Meet Martin Booker, our instructor. He brings a wealth of experience and expertise in financial education, where he successfully led financial initiatives for AARP. His focus on investing, Social Security, retirement planning, budgeting, and more has significantly contributed to the organization's mission of serving their membership base. Martin completed the Certified Financial Planner program at Georgetown University, equipping him with the skills to teach others about money in a practical and actionable manner. And you'll see that tonight. He served as the moderator for our previous 3-part economic empowerment webinar series. And tonight, he will provide a financial refresher. Please welcome the dynamic Martin Booker.
Thank you so much, Mary. I really appreciate that introduction. And I'm so excited to be here tonight. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. This is such a treat to be back and to be able to talk to you all about finances. This is we're in for a great presentation. What I'd ask of you for everyone that's with us is to do a couple of things. One, let's make this conversation. Let's make this a conversation. Let's not, this isn't just a lecture. This is not just a seminar. I want us to have a good dialogue about personal finance. So if you can, use the Q&A feature on the Zoom to ask your questions. If there's anything that you want to know about personal finance, I'm happy to answer it. You can also use the chat function if needed. When you have questions or if there's something that pops up for you, feel free to use that. But take advantage of this Q&A box to just, as I'm talking, if it sparks a thought for you, make sure that you ask it in the moment. And if you need to, write it down, and we can also talk and dialogue more as we go on. So let's please do that so that we just have a dynamic conversation about finances today. So let me pull up this presentation and we're going to dive right in. So as we mentioned today, we're doing a refresher. If you go on the Black Women's Agenda website, you'll see the presentation that we did in the past, where we were able to have a full conversation. We had a 3-part conversation about finances, and we got to dive deep. We got to start off talking about different segments of it. We talked about goal setting. We talked about budgeting. We talked about investing. We talked about credit and saving your money, all to make sure that we would prepare ourselves to be able to set our finances up for success. So today, in this first session, we're just doing a bit of a refresher. So we're going to look at some of the things that we talked about last year. I'm going to, hit some high level things throughout this presentation. And but it's just a good primer so that you can prepare yourself to go back and watch all of the things that we talked about with more depth in the first series that happened last year. So you got 3 full presentations right on the Black Women's Agenda website that I want you to go back and watch, especially after today, because we're going to go much deeper than we do today. So To start, I just want to give a quick disclaimer. So from AARP, we are, the information that I'm sharing, it's going to be mostly general guidance. It's not going to be specific legal or professional advice for you. I'm going to give you a lot of detailed information. I'm going to make sure that I give you thorough and actionable information, but you have to be just be aware that, if you need specific financial advice, you do want to talk to a financial planner yourself, because personal finance is so personal, right? We have to make sure that we're talking to someone who knows our story, who understands our background, who understands why we operate the way we operate, why we think the way that we think. That's very important when it comes to finances. So, we can talk in this forum. I'm going to share a lot of great information, but we want to make sure that someone knows your story before they give you specific financial advice, because it really does run deep. And the same with legal advice. So, keep that in mind as you're hearing this information. And as you ask your questions, I will share general information, general education, but you want to talk to a planner who can work directly for you. And so, planning to talk to a financial professional is not as expensive as it used to be. I'm going to talk about that a little bit in this presentation. But if you think that I can't talk to a financial planner until I have my money in order, that's not the case. You want to talk to a planner in order to get your money in order. So just keep that in mind as we go through this. So let me hit on a couple of the topics that we're going to talk about. And as I mentioned, use the Q&A function and just start. You can start asking your questions already, because I'm going to answer them throughout this presentation. So if it's something that's burning, the reason you showed up because you wanted to talk about something specific, go ahead and ask it. But we're going to talk about goals and goal setting. I'm going to give you some great money management tips, some really practical tips. We're going to talk about budgeting. I want to talk about credit a bit and debt. We're also going to jump into investing and retirement planning. And then I want to make sure that you have some resources so that when we finish our time together, you know exactly what you can do next and what steps you can take, because that's going to be very important. So to start, I want to break down a concept. And this is something that I've thought about. It's something that I love to kind of workshop, and it's something that we talked about last year. But it's this concept about our financial strengths. It's the things that we're good at or that come most natural to us, and they're different for all of us. And that's what's important to know. So when we talk about these 4 financial strengths, I want you to think about yourself and think about your relationship with money. And I want you to think about where you show up within this. So the first one that we're going to talk about is the person that makes money, the money maker, the person who's just really good at making money. And if I come down your aisle, I want you to just raise your hand or say me, or I just want you to just take a mental note that, yep, that's who I am. So the money maker is that person who, your entire life you've always found a way to make money. You had the lemonade stand, you were out selling Girl Scout cookies, but you were the top seller every time. You made sure that you sold the most, right? You were the person who always have been good at making money over your life. When it came to your career, you always found careers that were high paying. You started off in one high paying career and you found a way to move up and make even more. You're just the person, you are the money maker. This is how you show up in your life. You might make money and then make more on the side, right? Like you're just good at it. You tend to find ways to do that. So for the money maker, you're that person who you're good at these things, but you're strong at increasing your income, increasing your salary. But I'm going to make sure that I point out an area of opportunity for the money maker. Usually for the money maker, you're that person who also you're a pretty good spender, and you don't mind spending because you usually can get it right back. You know how to make money, right? So for the money maker, while you always bring it in, you usually don't think about things like, let me budget this, let me save some, because you know how to go and make some more money, right? So that's usually where the money maker lies. When we talk about the saver, you're that person who you are just you won't spend it. You barely have to keep a budget because you're not going to spend your money anyway. You like to see your bank account grow. You're that person who can easily have 15, 20,000, 30,000 in a bank account. And I know some of y'all are like, nobody's doing that. Trust me, I've met that person. They just have money sitting in their account because when they get paid, they rarely spend. They don't go out and buy a lot of things, or they just buy what they need to buy, and then they'll just continue to watch their money pile up. And they're good at doing that. They're good at just holding on to their cash because in some cases it's just being frugal. But in other cases, it's just, I want to see my money there. It feels safe. You feel safe having money stacked up for yourself. Now, with the money saver, I'm gonna tell you the area of opportunity for you. For most money savers, you are not really good. I see some that's me's coming in the chat. I told you I use the Q&A function. I want you to talk to me. I appreciate that. For the money saver, usually you are not someone who's interested or willing to take the risk to grow your money. And I'll tell you why. Because you've watched your bank account go from $100 to a couple of $1,000 to 5,000 to, and you watch it grow. So the idea of putting it into something like the stock market or into a risky investment that might dip, oh, that's going to drive you up a wall. So you're not willing to take those types of risks. So for the money saver, where you have the opportunity to grow is in sending your money to work for you. Because if you just keep saving it, I mean, it's great. You're gonna have a nice pile of money, but you can also send your money to work for you, and it's going to make you even more money. And the saver usually is very conservative in the way that they invest because they get nervous about an idea of their money possibly taking a dip. All right, so then we talk about the money grower. So the person who likes to grow their money. Every opportunity, you're looking for a chance to send your money to work. You see your dollars as employees. This is actually my space. This is one of my favorite things to do. Every dollar I get, I'm ready to put it in a market. I'm ready to send it to put it into a new investment. I'm ready to invest in some startup that's just getting going because I want to see my money grow. The idea of my money just sitting still in the bank account doesn't sit well. So for the money grower, you're always looking for an opportunity to put it into, into some real estate. You're trying to find a way to put it into the market. You want to see, how do I flip my dollars? So for the money grower, this is where you land. Now I'll tell you the area of opportunity for the money grower. The money grower, you usually you're exposed when it comes to savings because you don't want to keep money liquid because the idea of your money not growing feels, a little uneasy to you. So for you, you don't have an emergency savings all the time. You may not even keep a little money saved on the side because you're like, I want to send that to work. And if something was to happen, all of your money is tied up in investments. So you don't have that small nest egg that's going to carry you through when during those tough times. So for the money grower, you have to focus and think about, how do I continue to save something and just have it sitting there and let it be content, knowing that it's not growing. But I'm okay with that because I know that it's well invested. I mean, that I have other money invested, and this is my safety net. Now there's the spender and the giver of money. So you spender and giver. The spender, you're the one who, you're going to enjoy your money, right? You're the one who say, I can't take it with me. You're going to find a way to use it. You like to use your dollars, right? So for that spender and that giver, for that spender, that's who you are. You enjoy every dollar that you make. You tend to, you get paid. You're going to, you want to enjoy it. You want to go out. You want to do something to buy yourself something nice, right? You're the one who say, every time you get paid, you got to treat yourself to something nice, right? That's usually where that spender is. The giver, you're the one everyone knows you have that bleeding heart. Every nephew know to call you. Every cousin knows to call you. The siblings, they're going to reach out to you because you're the one that's going to take care of everybody. You're going to make sure that people have. You get the most sob stories in the family. You're the one that's on the phone. You got to listen to that 5-minute intro before they ask you to borrow $200, right? But they know that when they do that, you probably going to give it to them. So you're usually that giver of money. So you're always helping people. You're always there for everyone else. Now, here's the thing with the spender and the giver. Your opportunity is in making sure that you have savings and that you have yourself taken care of and that you're growing your money. Because you have to, like they say, you got to put your mask on first before you can take care of anyone else. So we have to make sure that you're taken care of. And a lot of times that giver, you will give even when you don't have enough for yourself. But as spender, you'll spend before you made sure that you put some money away for yourself. So we have to make sure that for you too, that we make sure that we set you up for success by taking care of you, having that budget in place, know exactly how much I can give, how much can I spend before I start to make those decisions. So that's something to keep in mind for the spender and the giver. Now, here's the thing. All of us land in one of these categories. We probably all hurt ourselves in one of those stories, right? Or in one of those situations. Now, here's what we got to make sure that we do. While we all land in one of those categories with no problem. And sometimes you'll shift, right? At that moment when you're making a whole lot of money, you might be a little bit more of a spender. But at that moment when your income's cut, all of a sudden you became a real good saver, right? So we've seen ourselves change in some of these situations. But one of the things that we have to make sure that we do is recognize where you are and make sure that you find someone that can help you in the areas where you have to be stronger, right? I know that I like to grow money. So a lot of times I have to put systems in place to make sure that I do some type of saving so that I don't mess myself up, right? And I had a mentor that used to always tell me, you play to your strengths and you staff your weaknesses. So whatever you're good at, that's what you take advantage of. You know how to make it really well, you go make it. But you go and hire somebody to make sure that you save, grow, and give your money successfully. So that's just something to keep in mind. And this is a quote that I really like because I really like the way that this gentleman came in and tried to change the idea of how we manage our money. So especially for us spenders and us givers. But this is just a matter of prioritizing how you use your money. So the idea behind this, he says, spend extravagantly on the things that you love and cut costs mercilessly on the things that you don't. And what that means, I want to just break that down quickly. Do not, so we have to prioritize what we love, right? Is when we think about what it is, it could be experiences. It's going out with your spouse or going out with your loved ones to a park and just enjoying yourself, right? Taking a trip and really being out there with them and having a great time in that space and just making memories. That's something that may be what you love. For other people, it's putting some clothes on, looking as good as you can, and having a good time. Just being outside and hearing people say to you, "Oh, I love that outfit. I love that jewelry. I love what you have on," and that's okay too, right? For other people, it's just sitting down for a great meal and enjoying some of the best food that you can find. For some people, it's driving a really nice car. You want to feel luxury in the vehicle that you drive. But here's the deal: you have to pinpoint which one of these things do I truly love, because it can't be all of them. And I sometimes that's our biggest issue is we think, oh, I want to drive a nice car, I want to go for the nice meal, I want to travel, and I want good clothes when I go out on a trip. You got to pick one and then cut costs mercilessly on everything else. If you want the big house, then sometimes it's okay to say, hey, we're not going to travel a lot, but I'm a homebody and I want a space that I love and I want to be comfortable in that space. So I'm gonna set it up the way I like it. I had a coworker who used to always tell me, hey, my family, we love to travel. We take 5 to 6 trips a year, but that's what we love to do. So we bought a very modest house that's really cheap so that we can spend our money traveling the world and seeing the world. And what he did is they made the trade-off, right? He chose the modest house because they ain't gonna be there that much, right? They want to go see the world, right? He got a job where he gets to travel. His children travel separately from him and his wife. Him and his wife take a trip, and then they take trips with the children individually. But they've chosen travel as their thing, so they spend extravagantly on that. And then they decided for everything else, we want to cut the cost so that we can do what we love to do. So I want you to think about that. Prioritize, figure out what is your thing. What do you love most? Is it electronics? Is it a vehicle? Is it experiences? Is it travel? Is it clothing? If you could only pick one, what would be your thing? And if you pick that, and that's where you put your money towards, and then everything else you decided, I'm not going to go too hard in this space. Could you do it? Try it. Think about it. So that's it's a great way to think about life. All right, let's dive into some of the technical stuff. So, and as I mentioned, keep the questions coming in for the Q&A. Just let me know what you're thinking. Feel free to talk to me in the Q&A too. I'll talk back, I promise. So one of the things when we talk about our goals, here's one. So I always like to call this the main goal. So what are we aiming for first? One of the most important things for us to do is we have to think about our net worth. When we think about our finances, our net worth is what we're aiming to increase. For a lot of us, we may think, oh, I got to get my credit score up. That's a start. And there's nothing wrong with having a good credit score. But ultimately, you want to see your net worth grow. And what your net worth is, it's everything I own minus everything that I owe. So that first side is your assets. That's everything you own. I want to see that grow. I want to own more and more things. I want to have more money. I want to own more I want to own more assets. I want to own more things that's going to grow in value. So more stock accounts, I want insurances. I want, if I have a car, I want one that may go up in value. I want real estate that's going to grow for me, right? So I want things that's going to go up in value, that are worth something. Those are called assets. And then whatever I owe on my assets or whatever I owe on things like credit cards, that's going to pull away from that number. And that's what I owe. And that's called a liability. But when we measure those two things together, you look down here at the bottom, that's what makes up your net worth. And so after I subtract out everything I owe from what I own, that's right there is the number that if we were to clear and cancel out everything I had, that's what's going to be left. And so, and you start out, right? We start out right out of college. Sometimes our net worth is very low, right? Sometimes it's negative, and that's okay. What's important is that we know it and then we work to change it, right? It may start off with 200,000 in student loans because that's what I owe. And I may only have one car, which may be $2,000. So I'm $198,000 in the hole. But then I start to work and my retirement accounts start to grow. I start to buy stocks. I may buy a house, and all of these things start to increase my assets. So now I'm seeing my money grow for me. So now this is, we're seeing what we own go up, and we're starting to see what we owe go down because we're paying that debt down. And that's what we make sure, we keep the credit card balances low. We try to pay off the cars if we can, things like that, because that's where those liabilities are pulling away from us. So for a couple of things, that's your financial scorecard. The other thing is you could track this annually. This is a good thing to do. I always say this 2 times a year, where if you wanted to focus on your finances, that you could. One could be January, top of the year. It's a good time. You're setting goals. You're thinking about where you are. A lot of people track their net worth around January, and it's called a statement of financial position. If you were to look one up online, you can download it, and then you just fill in the categories. But annual tracking. So January is a good time. The other time is around your birthday, right? You're getting older. You want to reset. You want to think about where you are. It's a good time to do that. So that's one of the first things. That's like your ultimate goal. Let's increase our net worth. So now when we talk about setting our goals, one of the things I always like to mention is, we got to have some type of goal, because if we aim at nothing, we're going to hit it every time, right? If I don't have an aim, then I'm hitting it. But if I aim for something, if I say, hey, this year I'm gonna save $1,000, right? That's just my goal. Now I have something to work towards, and having a goal is always going to be important. Now, you got to make those goals SMART. That means specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and time sensitive. So if I want to pay off, so this is an example of a good SMART goal. I want to pay off $3,514 of credit card debt by November 15th. What I'm saying is that is very specific. That's a very specific number. And then I'm saying it's going to be credit card debt. And it could be realistic based on your income and your budget. Is that realistic? You got to make that decision. And then it's time sensitive. We know exactly when it's going to happen. So that's the way you set a goal. It can't be, I'm gonna just lower my debt. All right, that's great. Do you want to lower your debt? That's a good idea of what you can do. But can you say how much debt? If you lay out a budget, you'll be able to tell us exactly how much debt. So that's a good way to approach it, so that you know exactly what you're going to do. And now we made that goal, but it's okay to have to readjust, right? Something happened in life. Life happens. Life happens all the time. If something happens in life and we have to readjust, that's okay. But we make the adjustment and we keep on going. We don't give up just because things have to change. All right, now let's talk about budgeting. To me, budgeting is the foundation of money management. If you want to manage your money well, you have to budget. And I want to point out, so we went deep a year ago. The things I'm talking about now are things that you can also translate into business. So when we talk about entrepreneurship, these are the things that you're going to need. These are some of those foundational things, because when you start your business, you have to set goals. Where are you headed? What are you going to be able to do, right? That's important. But then things like budgeting. You're going to run a business. You got to crunch the numbers. And if you're crunching the numbers in your day-to-day life, you're going to be able to crunch the numbers. You're crunching smaller numbers in your day-to-day life. You're crunching your thousands, right? So now when we running a business and we got to crunch millions, we have a base, right? We've done something before. We've looked at numbers and seen them often. So now when it comes to budgets, there's a lot of different ways to budget. This is not a one size fits all thing. This right here is a monthly budget. And I know for some people, you see all these numbers, you start thinking, I don't like a lot of numbers. I don't want to see that, but you got to get comfortable with it because this could be, again, if you want to make sure that you have some closeness to your numbers. I always say, stay close to your money. You have to know where your money's going, how much you're spending. You want to know how much is coming in. Growing up, I always said we had to know three numbers. We had to know our house number. We had to know our grandma number or somebody a backup person, an uncle's number, somebody else that we can call in an emergency. And then we had to know the number to 911. We had to know those three numbers. Now, as an adult, there are three numbers that you have to know at all times. You have to know exactly how much you bring in, which is called your income. That's where, if you look on the sheet in the green, that's your total income. You have to know exactly how much you spend. That's your total expenses in the orange. And then you have to know the difference. And what I always say is that difference is what's going to make the difference for you. That's where you're going to be able to make a difference and pay off debt, invest more money. You have to see that difference and know that difference. So in this case, the way that this budget is set up, there's actually a deficit. But the first thing you have to do is be aware, right? If I'm looking at this and I see that, oh man, I'm $715 in the hole after I pay all my bills, I got to look at this budget and I got to make some decisions. We see daycare, daycare is pretty expensive, but that may be a necessity. We got a whole lot of subscriptions on there. We're getting the grass cut. We got pet insurance. We got all types of things. So it's like, what could we possibly cut if we needed to make some cuts? But the first thing is being aware of where we are. So I'm gonna give you a couple of budgeting tips. So one, I always like to say, create your budget at least 1 month in advance, right? So before the first rolls around, we're on October 10th. If you don't know what you're spending in October, then you got to make a budget after this meeting, or you're gonna make a budget tomorrow, right? And that's for the rest of October. But then your goal is to make a budget for November. Most of our expenses are pretty set. We already know what we're gonna spend, right? A lot of our bills are set; they're the same every month. You got some that's gonna vary, but for the ones that's the same, let's set it up. Let's plan ahead so that we have an idea of what we're gonna spend in November today, right? The holidays are coming up. We got to start planning now. So with that, you look at a budget, and this budget right here looks a little different than the first budget because every budget may be a little different. This one is broken down it's broken down differently. It's broken down based on when you get paid. But you look at it, you can lay out your expenses, you lay out how much you have coming in. So we got our income, we got the date we're getting paid, and then we're laying out every bill that we're paying up until that date that we get paid. I mean, up until the next time that we get paid, right? So this could be on a 2-week pay schedule. And the way that this is set up is I pay everything out and then I see what's left after. But if I map this out, this is a budget for February. If I map this out in January, I'm already prepared. I already have a sense of when I have some money left over and when I don't. So I know when money's going to be tight and I might be able to have a little bit of a good time. I mean, I may not have a good time. And then I know when I got a little extra so that I can, go out and splurge a little bit. But you want to make sure that you know that in advance. So if I lay it out in advance, I got a better chance of managing that. So you budget based on your pay frequency. So what does that mean? All right, let's say that you're working a full-time job, but then you got a couple of side hustles. You do a couple of you write a couple of grants or something. You do a little bit of hair and you make a little extra money on the side. What you can do is you can lay your budget out based on when your money comes in. So you might have a paycheck that comes in every 2 weeks, but then, in between those 2 weeks, you got money that come in on the off week, right? So when that money comes in, you may say, all right, that money specifically for a couple of things. I'm going to take care of gas. I'm going to take care of eating out. But then on the main weeks, you're paying all the bigger bills and making sure that everything else is covered. But if you budget based on when you get paid, then the way that you see it and what you end up doing is you're able to see where every dollar is going. You're able to track every dollar and decide where it's going to be. So so that's another thing to think about when it comes to this. Another thing that you can do is pay your bills on payday. Sometimes this can take a while to get getting used to, right? Because if your income fluctuates or if you have, if your income is close to your expenses, sometimes that can be hard to do. But if you pay all your bills and get the money out of your account, then now you know exactly what you have for other things like eating out, for for other things that may not necessarily be a necessity, for putting gas in your car, things like that. But I got the main money out of my account. And think about it, for somebody, this is one of the things that I actually use. I do, and I started doing this myself because I'm not a natural saver, right? I mess around. I got money sitting in my account. I want to go put it in the stock market, or I want to go, do something else. So if I'm not going to prioritize, if I won't prioritize paying my bills, one of the first things I can do is get the money out of my account and not have to worry about it, so that then I can just use what's left to take care of other things, right? And one of the most important things when it comes to money management is knowing yourself. I know myself. If I'm leaving the bill money there for 10 days, will that bill money actually be there 10 days later? It might not be, because I might have saw something I want to use it on. So if I pay it on the day that I get paid, it's out of my account, and now I know what's left over. So this is just another thing to think about when it comes to doing that. Now I see a question in the chat. Someone asks, what can I do if I have fluctuating income? Great question. So if you have fluctuating income, one of the things that I always say is to start with the minimum of what you might bring in. So if you know that my pay, in 2 weeks, it might be 1,000, or it might be 1,500, somewhere between there. Start budgeting on 1,000. And then when your paycheck hits, before you start paying bills, put the actual amount of your paycheck in there, right? Or the amount that you have. The other thing you can do is you might stretch this out, and you might have 5 or 6 more columns on here. And because your pay may come in weekly, it might come in 2, 3 times a week. And you want to budget specifically based on what you brought in. So you might have to spend a little bit more time with your budget, because the money frequency comes in a little differently. But hey, I'm gonna, I want to be intentional, and I want to think about it ahead of time. So I'm gonna lay out a budget based on my pay frequency, so that I can do that. And then when it fluctuates, just start with the minimum and then raise it when it's higher, especially if you're planning ahead. Because what you don't want to do is say, hey, all right, I usually bring in about 2,000, but then you're consistently bringing in 1,700 or 1,600. And so you keep having this deficit. You don't want a deficit, right? And for most businesses, we're talking about entrepreneurship throughout this series. Most businesses, they're conservative with their income, but then they're aggressive with what they're going to spend, right? So you're going to think about, I'm gonna say that I might spend 2,000, and really I'm gonna spend 1,700, but I'm gonna say that I bring in 15, even if so that if I bring in 2,200, I can adjust and I don't have a deficit. So that's, we do that with our own dollars as well. The other thing, we don't want to forget our necessities. Let me show y'all what I'm talking about. Look down there and tell me what you see. We talking about hair, we talking about nails, eating out, breakfast, spending money. These are what we call the necessities, right? And what I mean by that is you're going to spend this money regardless. And if you know you're going to spend it, make sure that you actually put it in the budget. I've sat with a lot of people who write out a budget, and what they'll do is they'll say, oh yeah, this is all I spend. I can't believe I got all this money left over. And then I'll say, how often do you get your hair done? They say every 2 weeks, or you get a haircut every 2 weeks. How come that's not in your budget? What you get? How often you get coffee? Every day. How much it cost you? $3 a cup. That's $15 a week during the work week, and then $60 a week. I mean, $60 a month. Let's put that in your budget. And now we start to see the money start to chip away. But we have to make sure that those things are in there too, because we're gonna spend the money anyway. If you're gonna spend it, it goes in the budget, especially if it's something consistent. All right, let's talk about credit a little bit. So that's, a couple of budgeting tips. There's a whole lot more that you can do around budgeting, and I talk about it in the first video that's up on the website. So take a look at that one if you want a lot more budgeting tips, because there's a lot more there. So let's talk about credit. So what's important about credit? This is, what is credit? It's going to be that contract between you and a borrower. What you're doing is you're saying, hey, I'm gonna borrow money from you. I need this lump sum to take care of some expense. It can be a business expense. It can be, a car loan. I'm buying a house, and I'm going to promise you that I'm going to pay you back. I'm going to pay you back over time. It's going to be in pieces, but I'm paying you back at a later date. And guess what? I'm going to give you a little bit of extra because you were able to give me this money right now, right? So that's what interest is. So that's what credit is. You're going to use it. You may use it in your personal life. And a lot of times, in order to get business credit, they're going to start with looking at what you did with your personal credit, because they want to see, okay, we can manage, you are trustworthy as an individual, And if that's the case, now I'm willing to look at your business and also see that your business can be trusted as well, because you started off with good contracts as an individual. So I just want to point out a couple of things when it comes to credit. So how are they going to decide? Am I willing to give you money? They're going to look at your credit score, and they're going to look at your credit score, and they're going to decide, are you someone who I can allow to borrow money? This is almost like your adult GPA, right? So when you think about college and going to school, they'll be able to say, this is when you graduate, they say, let me get they want to see your transcripts because they want to see how well you did. So in the working world, or when it comes to your personal loan, they can't pull a transcript, but they can look at your credit report or your credit score and say, you know what, you've been paying back every dollar you owed, you pay it back on time, so we'll go ahead and let you borrow some money. Now, where's the importance when it comes to your credit score? Here's the things that matter the most. First, your payment history. Have I paid my money back? Have I paid the money back on the days that I borrowed it? So when I borrow money, did I actually give it back when I said I would? That alone, paying on time or missing payments, will make or break your credit score more than anything else. Next is the amount of money you owe. If you spend every dollar that you're given of your credit card, your credit score starts to drop. The magic number is 30%. Try not to spend more than 30% of your credit card balance. So if you have $1,000 on that credit card, try not to spend more than $300, right? So that's going to allow you, by staying under that amount, that's going to help you to not see your credit score drop. And then the length of time that you've had a credit card is going to help you as well. When they look and say that, oh, you've been managing credit and borrowing money and paying back for a significant amount of time, that helps your credit score. Also, getting new credit. A lot of times you open up a new credit card, you're going to see your credit score drop, and then it's going to start to go back up because of the history and you using credit. And then the types of credit that you use. There's 3 types of credit. So there's credit cards, which is called revolving credit. I can use it, pay it back. Use it, pay it back. It revolves. And then there's installment loans. Those are like a car loan. So I borrowed a certain amount and I'm paying it back the same amount every month until it's paid off. And then there's mortgages. Having all 3 just looks good on your credit report. So they see that you've managed all types of credit successfully, and that raises your credit score too. So let's talk about debt, because debt is important, right? So that's a big part of credit. As I mentioned, the amount that you owe can affect your credit score. So you want to make sure that you're paying down, keeping your debt low. One of the most important things, and this is, I want to talk about debt in a very specific way. I want to talk about lifestyle. So when we talk about having a lot of debt, and we want to lower our debt, one of the first things we have to think about are some of the decisions that we make as a person. I know there was a point when I had a lot of credit card debt, and one of the first things I did is I had to take all of my credit cards off of me. Because if I got to make a decision between spending my last $100 or adding to my debt that might have $300-400 of a credit limit on it, I might choose to swipe that credit card. And if you think the same way, you want to make sure that you combat yourself. You have to take the credit card out of your purse or have it out of your wallet, because at that point you can't make that decision. One of the biggest things, sometimes the biggest person that you have to combat in order to get your finances in order is yourself. So keep that in mind. Now, if you have a lot of debt, do you have to go and get additional income? Will you have to pick up that second job? Do you have to go and work in the gig economy for a little while? What do you have to do in order to make sure that you make the money to attack your debt? And remember, sacrifice is temporary. If you're in a position where you have a lot of debt and you have to get rid of it, make the sacrifice now so that you can get rid of it. And remember, it's not forever. You're working that second job. You only have to do it until the debt's gone. And now you can leave. You can leave after. You might have to lower your expenses. What are you paying for that you don't have to pay for? Can we lower all of our expenses until we get to where we need to be? The other thing, if you live alone and you got a basement, could you rent your basement out to a friend? Rent it out you might have to rent it to a stranger, right? But they can help to offset those costs, and you can put that towards paying off debt. Do you have any unused items? You got a second car sitting in front of your house? Put it up for rent. Let somebody else rent it and drive it, and use that income that you bring in to pay down your debt. And then when you have what's called a windfall, so when you get that tax return, some of us get bonuses from our job every year. When we get, in some cases, an inheritance might come your way. If you have to use that to clear out some debt, do it. Get rid of that debt, and then, work hard to never build it up again. Cut up those credit cards if you have to. Now, when it comes to debt, when could debt possibly work in our favor? When we're talking about starting a business, in some cases, we may need to start a bit. You gotta open up that hair salon. You gotta start this big business, and buying the equipment that you need. You may need to get some upfront capital for that. And in that case, that may be a time when debt comes in handy, because you're using debt to get a revenue generating purchase. I'm using my debt to buy something that's gonna make me money. That's a time when debt can be a responsible use. If you're buying a home, one of the rules, this is a tough rule, especially in this housing market, where they say, it's a 30% income rule. So I don't want to spend more than 30% of what I bring in on my housing expenses. So you can do the math. And they make calculators for this. You can look up like a mortgage calculator, or just do the math yourself. Take the amount that you pay in rent or in your mortgage, and I want you to add up how much you make per month. So how much you pay in rent or your mortgage per month, and then take how much you make per month, and see what percentage you pay in your housing expense in comparison to what you make per month. If you keep it under 30%, you can enjoy life the way you want. You have the money to go out to eat. You have the money to still, drive the car you may want to drive, to do things that you enjoy. But what we want to prevent is being in those positions where we've bought a house and our housing expenses are so high that we can't do anything but be in that house and pay for that house, right? And it's tough when we're in those positions, but that's when we can go back to some of those other strategies of making sacrifice. Can we move somebody in? Do we rent the whole house out to somebody else until we can get back, into a good space? But we have to figure that out. So the 30% rule is going to help you to be able to still live life comfortably while also being in the house that you're in. And if that's the case and you can't buy your dream house tomorrow, that's okay. The dream house is coming. You'll be able to get it. It just may not be right now. It's not a no, it's just a not right now. And that's okay. And then in a pinch, you want to make sure that you have a plan. I know a lot of people, you'll buy a house, and this is one of the nice house hacks that you can do. Call your mortgage company and ask your mortgage company if you're able to make biweekly payments on your mortgage. It does two things for you. It helps with your cash flow, because if I'm only paying half of my mortgage every 2 weeks when I get paid, now I don't have that big lump sum coming out at once, right? But the other thing it does is it allows you to make 26 payments. I'm sorry, it allows you to make 13 payments a year on your mortgage instead of 12, right? And now what I've done is I've decreased the amount of time that I gotta pay on my mortgage by 5 years. So you pay your mortgage off 5 years earlier, and you balanced out your monthly payments, because your housing expense is usually your largest payment. All right, so let's talk a little bit about. So I'm going to ask you, will I put the link to the budget that I presented in the chat? Yes, I'll drop the link in the chat as soon as we finish, so that you can have the budget. So now let's talk a little bit about retirement planning. And we'll move through a little quicker because we are getting close to time, and we still have a great panel that's coming up. So when it comes to retirement planning, we all have to prepare ourselves, whether we're an entrepreneur or we're working for somebody. We want to make sure that we're doing things to set ourselves up to retire well, and to retire without worry when it comes to the money that we have. So one of the things that you can use is a retirement calculator. I'll also make sure that the links to everything that we put in the chat, I'll make sure that the links to all of those are in here. So so with a retirement calculator, you can put in exactly how much you have saved at the moment, the type of lifestyle that you want to live, and they'll tell you how much it's going to cost you, and how much more you still need to save in order to prepare for that lifestyle. So that's a good way to just kind of prepare yourself to kind of think ahead, right? We have to prepare for our last day of work every day that we're at work. So if you put those numbers in and just take a look at it, it'll give you a sense of where you are and what's coming. So it's a good, healthy, it's a good way to start planning. And I see someone asked, about that question. I hope that with that mortgage question and what I explained, answered the question for you about number 3. Um, and I'm happy to answer some more questions in the chat as we're going along, because I see someone asked more about the 30% rule. So I'll make sure that I explain that for you. So investing. So what's important when it comes to investing is that you want to have accounts so you can save money. But the other thing I mentioned is that we have to grow our money. So when it comes to growing our money, we have to use accounts that will allow us to do so. So we bring our money in. We want to make sure that we're also able to save, but we can invest money while we're working. So these are some of the accounts that you can use through your job. And if you're an entrepreneur, pay attention to those last two: the solo 401k and the SEP IRA. That's a self-employment IRA. Those are important, and I want you to go take some time to look that up, because that's how you save for retirement. This is money you won't touch until you're in your late 50s or 60s, so that you're preparing yourself to save and grow your money while you're working every day. And then outside of work, you can also save even more money. So you can put money into your savings, but then if you want more flexibility in how you invest and what you're saving, what you're investing, you can use what's called an IRA, which is an individual retirement account. Now, when you're working, you want to make sure that you are investing through your employer, or if you have one of those solo 401ks, you can invest as well. One of the things you can do, if you haven't done this, you want to make sure that you go in and you know what brokerage account your retirement account is with at work. If you have a 401k, or if you're in a nonprofit, you might have what's called a 403b. If you work in education, you might have a 401a, or if you're with government, you might have a 401a. So these are different types of accounts that you might have. The number letter combination might be a little different, but make sure you know who's managing that account. Make sure that you set up your password. Make sure that you go in and see how much you have saved so far, and then see what the investments are doing. And you can set up things like automatic increases, so that every year when you get your cost of living increase, you also save a little bit more towards retirement. It's a good way to see your money grow without you can kind of just set it and forget it. Now, these are some of when we think about after we retire, where's our money coming from? It's going to come from what you saved in cash, what you have in those workplace and non-workplace retirement accounts. You're going to pull from that. You may have an annuity set up. That's for money that you save that you're having paid out a certain way. And then there's Social Security. These are some of the things that you're going to use to pay for your living in retirement. So when it comes to Social Security, here's a couple of things you want to know. And these are some important things to know. So for anyone who's already taken Social Security, it's important for you to know these. And then if all of us will take Social Security one day. It's important for us to know these things. And I'm going to hit these at a high level. And I'm happy to answer questions later in the chat about some of these things. But when it comes to Social Security, for Social Security, you are looking at we're looking at your highest 35 years of earning. So every year that you make more money, that replaces the lowest year of earnings that you made for what your Social Security benefit is going to be. So the number goes up based on your highest 35 years of earnings. So if you become an executive, you become a manager at your job, now you're making more, your Social Security earnings are going up because of that. If you're a self-employed, you want to report those high earning years. You want to report all your years, because that's going to make up your Social Security. So when it comes to being married, if you're married, you get to collect the highest between you and your partner. So if one partner took 10 years off to raise the children, that's okay. If the other partner was continuing to work and they made more and more money, while you're married, you get to collect the highest amount between the two of y'all. When it comes to qualifying for Social Security, you have to pay into it for 10 years. You have to pay into Social Security for at least 10 years. So if you're an entrepreneur and when you file your taxes and you pay Social Security taxes, that counts towards your Social Security benefit. So you do want to make sure that you're filing and paying your Social Security taxes so that you have that benefit later. The Social Security, most of us know about Social Security as we know about it as a retirement benefit, but there's also a survivor's benefit, a spousal benefit, and a disability benefit, and they all have different time frames. So you can, you may have if you have a child with a disability, they may be able to get the benefit at a much younger age. Or if you had a spouse that passed away and you were younger, you may be collecting a spousal benefit at a younger age, or a survivor benefit from a parent. You may be collecting Social Security. So make sure that you're not just paying attention to Social Security based on just thinking about it as a retirement benefit as overall. So you want to make sure that you truly understand Social Security and that you engage with it. Here's something to know about Social Security. The longer you wait to collect Social Security, the higher the benefit is that you'll receive each month. And the way that it works, so the earliest that you can claim Social Security is 62. The full claiming age is going to be somewhere between 66 and 67. So at that point, you have no reduction in your benefit when you take it at 66 or 67. If you collect it before 66, or your claiming age, which is going to be based on the month and year that you were born, your benefit is reduced for as long as you collect that benefit if you take it early. If you after your full claiming age, every year that you wait, there's an 8% increase on your Social Security benefit. So your benefit continues to grow at that point, up until the age 70. After that, after 70, it does not continue to grow anymore. So keep that in mind. After you hit full retirement age, if you wait year over year before you take it, you'll see your benefit grow 8% each year that you don't take it. So that's something to keep in mind. I had a really important question that I do want to answer, because after this, we're going to talk about resources. And I want you to, in the chat or in the Q&A, I want you to list some of your favorite resources when it comes to finances. What are some of the things that you do? And we're starting to wrap up this section. So list some of the things that you do, some of the tools that you use, some of your favorite podcasts and things to read, around when it comes to money, because we want to list those out so that everybody takes advantage. So this is our time to help each other collectively. And then I'm gonna share a couple of important resources from AARP. But while y'all are listening to your resources, I'm gonna answer a couple questions. What's your favorite book to read? What's your favorite podcast to listen to? Favorite app? What is the thing that helped you the most when it comes to finances? Even list your favorite tip. Tell us what it is. And while we're doing that, I want to mention, someone asks, is there anything one can do to eliminate RMDs and the costs that they may incur? So RMD is a required minimum distribution. So at the point that you have to take a required minimum distribution, then it's a little too late to eliminate it. But I want to explain what a required minimum distribution is. So there's a point where if you have an account where no taxes were taken out when you were saving for retirement, then there's a point where they make you take out some what's considered a required minimum distribution, and it's at a certain age you have to take out you have to take out at least the minimum, and because now they want to tax you on the money that you were never taxed on. The way to avoid that is by having pre-taxed accounts. So what they call a Roth account, meaning that they took the taxes out at the time that you invested the money into retirement. When you do that, you do not have a required minimum distribution because that money was already taxed. So that's the way to do it. So if all of your accounts are traditional retirement accounts and none of them are Roth retirement accounts, then every traditional account is going to have a required minimum distribution. Whereas the ones where the taxes were taken out a long time ago, they do not have a required minimum. It is an important thing when you're talking to a financial planner. It's important to know that, or it's important to talk to a financial planner, because they can help you with the strategies to make sure that you can pass your money on without it being taxed heavily and things like that. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, I want to point out a couple of resources in these next 2 minutes. So I'm going to roll through these quickly. So please jot them down, and you'll be able to come back and watch these recordings as well. So aarp.org/money. This is a really important resource. You can go in here and learn everything. And this is not just for the 50 plus. I just want to point this out. You got tools that focus on budgeting. You got articles that are talking about investing money. We have a fantastic article that we've been writing for 15 years called 99 Ways to Save. It will tell you every way to save your money. Go in there and read up about different ways to cut your expenses. It's also information about investing, savings, all those things. AARP Money Map. This is a great tool that you can use to work on your debt. If you need to lower your debt, you can make a budget in the tool. They'll help you with a plan to pay down your debt. Also, AARP Money Map has a savings planner. You need to figure out, you want to save for a trip, you're trying to save up your emergency fund. The tool will help you with a savings goal and help you to build up your savings. The other thing, I talked about getting a financial planner or a financial professional. AARP has a tool called Interview an Advisor, which will help you to find a financial planner. They're going to educate you on the things to ask. It's really interactive, so it will help you set up a follow-up email after you've had a meeting with a financial professional to ask a lot of questions to make sure that you have thoroughly vetted this financial professional. It also has tools that help you look up a financial professional to see, to find their credentials, find out if they've ever had any penalties against them, or any bad marks. So all of these things are within this tool. This is a way to protect you and educate you into finding the right type of financial professional for you. And then lastly, the last tool I'm going to mention is AARP Foundation's Property Tax Aid. This is a very important tool for property tax relief. If you fell behind on your property taxes, this tool will help you apply for property tax relief in your area, because there may be a way for you to catch up on your property taxes if you didn't know about it. This does happen a lot. This happens a lot when people have paid off their mortgage, and initially your mortgage was paying the property taxes, right? The mortgage company. Now you have to do it yourself, and you forgot, I got another bill to pay, right? Or when you've retired, you may not have enough income to cover it. So property tax aid is a great way to get the relief that you might need to make sure that you don't lose a very important asset that you want to pass down to your family. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing. I know we have another great panel coming, so we want to bring them up. I'm going to bring Mary in to take over.
Thank you so much, Martin, for that excellent refresher. You have done an excellent job to prepare us for our next sessions. It is now my pleasure to introduce this illustrious panel of experienced entrepreneurs. Beginning with Gabby Anderson. Gabby is a Division I athlete who has spent a lot of time on the basketball court. She does more than play sports. In addition, she is a young artist who owns her own custom shoe company, Graffiti by Gabby. What started as her just doing a few pairs for friends quickly turned into orders from all walks of life. Gabby is a sophomore at Harvard University, where she is majoring in economics with dreams of growing her company in such a way that she can fund art programs in her community. And now let's meet Dr. Stacie N.C. Grant. Dr. Grant is an award-winning international speaker, master facilitator, best-selling author, influencer, producer, actor, publisher, and celebrity MC. She is living her divine calling to lead, teach, and inspire. She is the founder of Destiny Designers University and the Faithpreneur TV network. She has received many awards, including being recognized as the Business Person of the Year by the Queens, New York Chamber of Commerce in July 2022. She became the international president and CEO of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. Kelly Joy Richardson is our third panelist. She enjoys a professional journey as an Emmy award-winning, creative, visionary, and entrepreneur. She is the founder and CEO of the Sunrise Project, an NAACP Image Award nominated nonprofit organization focused on helping parents deal with the uncertainty, heartache, and pain that comes with having a child struggling with mental wellness and addiction. Kelly spends her daytime hours as the owner of the House of Joy, a Black and woman-owned marketing firm that specializes in creating impact initiatives for the Black community. She is also one of the co-creators and architects of the Crown Movement. Thank you, ladies, for joining us this evening, and welcome to our virtual stage. I invite you to take 5 minutes to answer the following question. Why am I an entrepreneur? Or why are you an entrepreneur? Let's begin with Dr. Stacie N.C. Grant.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you, Ms. Mary Clark, for hosting this part of the conversation. It's always a pleasure to be with the Black Women's Agenda and to be joined by Gabby Anderson and Kelly Joy Richardson, two amazing entrepreneurs. And why am I an entrepreneur? It's in my blood. It's what I knew I was born to do. I told my mother I think it was after my college graduation, I said, I don't think I'm going to last working for anyone else too long. It was on my first real job when they took out all my taxes. And I said, wait, I don't know if this is going to work out well for me for long term. So it was always something inside of me that admired the ability to write your own story, to create your own opportunities. And I don't know if people listening can relate. Sometimes you're in a space or you're on a job and you know that you would do things a little different. And maybe you might even be more qualified than the people who were supervising you. I don't know, I won't tell. But I knew for me that it was not something that I thought would be sustainable, because I just had a burning in my soul that there was more that I wanted to create. I wanted to be the one to create jobs for other people, to create an environment where other people could thrive and really tap in to what their divine assignment was. So I'm an entrepreneur because I realized how many years later, I'm the answer to my grandmother's prayer. And why I say that, Miss Mary, is she was a business owner, and I didn't know that. She left this planet December 15th, 2015, 98 years young. And I thought I knew everything about my grandmother because I'm a grandma's baby. And there was nothing I did in my life that I didn't spend time and honor her. But what I found out, she actually owned a business in Jamaica, West Indies. That's where we're from. And Miss Mary, my aunt told me the story that when she opened up this shop, people kept coming and they didn't have enough money. So they would, as the Jamaicans would say, me beg you, Miss Pearl, me appear you tomorrow. Translation in English, it was layaway. And my grandfather was like, what kind of business is this? You're giving everything away. So he shut it down. What if she had what I'm doing today, which is a platform to work with faithpreneurs, to give them the skills, the structure and the capacity to grow and build an enterprise? My grandmother could have handed that down to us. So now I know when I said it was in my bones, I didn't really realize how deep it went, because I'm able to live my grandmother's dream. And as she looks down from heaven, to know that prayers are efficacious and God has answered her prayer through her granddaughter. I think you're muted, Miss Mary.
Thank you very much. I was so engaged in your story. I forgot. So thank you so much for sharing. So let's now hear from Gabby.
Yes, hi everyone. I'm so excited to be here. I definitely want to thank the Black Women's Agenda. Thank you, Mary, for having me. Very excited to be on this panel, but I think Dr. Grant touched on it amazingly. Working for yourself is definitely a big one. As you said, some people are built for it. I think I might be built for it too. one thing that I think really connects to your point was that leadership aspect, being able to be in those leadership roles and control the environment that you're in and make sure you're creating these other job and spaces where people do feel like they can thrive. I think is something I've loved so much about being an entrepreneur. Even though I'm so young, I think basketball has definitely taught me that it is nice to be the leader in certain aspects and take over. And the freedom that I have to be as creative as I want and to run different projects is something I definitely love about being an entrepreneur. I think I'm kind of where you're at, Dr. Stacie. I'm getting ready to leave college and I'm like, oh, I don't know if I could work for someone else. But I'm starting to figure it out. I definitely think it's been fun. And the work that I do gives back to other people quite often, making shoes for everyone else and definitely getting to create these visions that other people see and kind of put this story to art has been amazing. And I don't think I could do it for someone else because it's very nice to be able to put my own touch on it and relate with each person directly. So I think that's why I'm an entrepreneur.
Thank you so much. And now let's hear from Kelly. Tell us your story.
Okay, well, thank you. It's an honor to be here, and I am thrilled to share with you and really privileged to be sharing this space with Dr. Stacie and Gabby and you as well, Ms. Clark. I became an entrepreneur about 15 years ago when I was coming back from a flight from China, and I was trying to fill out the preschool paperwork for my little 3-year-old at the time. And I could not answer the questions at all. And I realized in that moment, as I was sitting there enjoying my meal and my glass of wine, that I had lost track of what was most important to me because I was chasing the check and chasing the bag and chasing all the things. But I could not fill out the paperwork because I did not know my little boy and I did not know my older son. I did not know who they were. I did not know what they watched. I didn't know what time they woke up, what time they went to bed because I left the house at 5:30 in the morning and I was never back before they went to bed. And so I, at that moment, decided to become an entrepreneur so I could focus on my family. And my first company was called K4 and Company, Kelly, Keith, Kylan, Chris, because my intention was to always be able to remember what was first and what was priority, which was my family. So back then we had hard business cards, and so I thought if I could pass out my business card and there was my logo, always first in mind was my family and my faith and getting back on track with that. That was part one. Then in 2012, my father passed away. And similar to Dr. Grant with her grandmother's story, my father named me Kelly Joy. And he told a very dear friend of mine a couple weeks before he passed, he died of a sudden heart attack. And so she shared the story that he had said, please help my daughter find her joy. I named her Kelly Joy for a reason, and I don't see her having joy in her life. She fusses at the kids, she's fussing at her husband, all the things. And so he said to her, please help her find her joy. And it was in that moment I created then Joy Collective. It's now become House of Joy, and the intention is to walk in that space where my purpose is to advance authentic joy for myself and for the world. And that's what we do at House of Joy. That's what I do with the Sunrise Project, very much in honor of my father and what I believe is my God-given space in this world, which is to be who I am, to be joy, to be light, to be positive, and to always remember whose I am.
So beautiful. Thank you so much, ladies. Now I said 5 minutes, but we've got lots of time to hear from you again. So I'm sure that there are some tips that you can share as an entrepreneur. Is there anything else that you can share with us? Because we've got time and we've got individuals in the audience who want to become entrepreneurs, and I'd like you to share more of your story, some more tips. So who would like to begin?
I'll jump in just to say that Martin did a phenomenal job in giving this entire really holistic overview on financial health and just looking at what you want to do as an entrepreneur. So let me tell on myself. I, like Martin, didn't really like the budgeting thing. Like, let me spend some money. Don't tell me about budgeting. But if you are going to be in business, you have to know your numbers. You have to face your numbers. And I think the power in this series that the Black Women's Agenda is providing is just a conversation to level set where you are. No judgment. I know every entrepreneur has gone through their ups and downs. Well, I'll speak for myself. I've gone through my ups and downs. And you're not always going to get it perfect. And I love the fact that Gabby is here because she has that young, unbridled energy. Gabby, the world is your oyster. You get to choose what you want to do when you graduate from school. And now you are surrounding yourself with individuals who can give you a roadmap so that you don't have to make some of the mistakes that maybe some of us have made. And you start making sure you shore up your back end and your back end office. That was something that I didn't really understand in my initial years. I just had the passion. I had the desire to do all these great things, but not understanding how important it is early in business to really get the kind of structure that Martin talked about. And you get that from bookkeeper, from an accountant, from you starting to create your own budgets and realizing how you're able to not only see revenue come in, but have your money make money for you. When people said that, I was like, what are they talking about? Using other people's money. Well, how do you do that? Well, this is why these conversations are so important, so that early on in planning your entrepreneurial journey, you get the foundation and you get a solid foundation. Martin mentioned Social Security. Some people don't even think about that when they're starting business. Like, you don't have 10 years in, you can't draw from something you didn't deposit. So as an entrepreneur, the passion is always going to be there because you have a great idea. And you might be able to cook the best sweet potato pie this side of the Mississippi. But if you don't have the right back end structure, the right support, the right people, he said it so well. Play to your strengths and then hire and staff out your weaknesses. That is one of the things I wanted to pull from Martin's presentation, that if you didn't hear anything else, make sure you build a strong team, get that back office, learn how to face the numbers, even when they hurt, because I've had numbers be upside down and all around town, but you just have to face it so that you can move past it and get to where you're going. And that's the joy of the entrepreneurial journey. And what I like to talk about, it doesn't have to be perfect. We can go through a laundry list of all the name brands that you know and how many times they failed, but they failed fast and they failed forward. How many times they kept going. I think it's the Post-it company. Lord, it's going out of my head. I'm showing my age. But that was an accident that they were able to create what they use, and what we take and just put a Post-it somewhere. Sometimes a failure becomes a success story. So don't get discouraged on your road if it doesn't work out perfectly the first time. All that's happening is you know what not to do next time, but you get your infrastructure right. You listen to people like Martin so that you can find those in your cabinet of influence, like a Kelly Joy, who I just personally know, and she is just that joy. But people who believe in you, want to work with you. I'm about to adopt Gabby. So thank you, Miss Mary, that we're on this call, because this is how entrepreneurs do what we do. We take our excitement, we take our knowledge, we share it so that we can be the creators of business, that we can be the ones to pass on intergenerational wealth, that we can stop the things that have hindered, especially in communities of color, our opportunity to advance with financial gain and be cash flow positive and unapologetically profitable. I'll pause there.
Ooh,
Thank you
that
so
was
much.
fantastic. All of it. And love you too, Dr. Grant. I would love to just to build on that. I think so many things you said are powerful. I think people make businesses and people leave people. They don't leave companies or jobs. People leave people. And so walking and creating that space as an entrepreneur and creating a place where people want to be, to follow your vision, to be a part of the team, to be collaborative and be in it together to win. I think that's so critical. So people, and I also think when you see a person that is not aligned with your vision, whatever that is, it's okay to say that that's okay. There are other places in this country you can go work, but it's not going to be here because you have to have people on your team that will lay down for you. Like will say, we're going to go for it and will really fight with their life for you. I mean, that is so key. And if they're not, you have to let them go quickly with grace and with a smile. I think that is so critical. And I also think something else you said and what Martin said earlier, the numbers are so critical. That is not my strength. I am a creative at heart. I'm a big picture person, but I know what I don't know. And so I get people around me, like you said, to fill those gaps, to plug those holes. And so I can let my genius shine while all the things that I don't like doing, I'm not good at doing, other people can do and fill that gap. That's so important. And the other thing I would just say that I've learned over time is that if you want to be a president, you have to act presidential. So you have to show up and be how you expect to be treated. And for many years, I showed up as the worker bee, the person, because I like to get the work done. And people would have to tell me, you're running the communications department, take off the headset, walk the red carpet, don't work the red carpet. But that's a big paradigm shift for someone that's leading a business, running a business. We tend to be in the business instead of working on the business. It's a huge shift as an entrepreneur to really make those adjustments over time. I think that those are some of the things I've learned. And just to piggyback on what you said also about Martin, I remember Dr. Lynn Richardson telling me, and it was so deep. She said, nobody has a money problem, they have a math problem. And if you think about it's math. What he shared earlier was all math, and put your 10% of it tithe, if that's what you believe in, tithing, saving, having those buckets of money, pay your taxes. This is especially important as an entrepreneur, prepay your taxes because we can get in trouble on the back end. But do that and then make sure you put side money and then have what's left for expenses and things like that. But first and foremost, pay yourself, tithe, and really learn the math, the basic math. Is, I think, critically important. I'll pause there. I'll stop there.
Thank you so much. So, Gabby, tell us, give us some tips. What you've learned. I remember you were with us in 2022. You were in high school when you started your business. And so tell us what you've learned over these years.
I think the biggest thing that I have learned is to keep learning. No matter how far you get into this entrepreneurship thing, I'm 5 years down now, continue to learn. I think Harvard has provided me with many resources so that way I can extend my business acumen. But even here today, I'm listening to Dr. Grant and Ms. Richardson, and I'm learning more just now being on this panel. And I think that is a huge thing. No matter what level you are, even if you are the boss, it's nice to learn. As Ms. Richardson just touched on, you're surrounding yourself with people who do know things more than you. Take the time to learn. So that way, maybe one time they might need help. Maybe you have to do it on your own at some point. It's nice to continue to grow your mindset because you are in that presidential role, as Ms. Richardson said. And it is nice to know as much as possible because I think it definitely extends your business and shows that you have the ability to continue to run it.
This has been excellent. So much good information. Thank you. So, do we, Christy Patton Foster is our BWA executive consultant, and she's going to help us with questions. Christy, do we have any questions?
There's one from the Q&A chat that says, what advice do you have for finding your entrepreneurial lane? Me personally, I'm lucky enough that my entrepreneurial lane is art because it was one of my passions. I've been doing it since I was a baby. I quite enjoy it. I basically turned my love into my work, and it's been really nice to do. And I think it helps if you're passionate about something because you are working on it every day, and there are ups and there's downs. And sometimes you have to get through those rough patches, but if you love what you're doing, it's always worth it.
Thank you so much.
I agree. I would say that one of the questions that I ask those that I work with, I say, what makes your soul sing? What's the thing that just makes you happy? Like when I think of Kelly, I do think of joy, right? And I see her beautiful face, her spirit. It's what makes your soul sing. What do you do so well that comes so easy to you that you almost overlook it? And that was part of my introspection because communication for me is a gift. What God has given me and the way that I use it and the way that I've been able to facilitate or give keynotes or now in media, it was an actual gift. But I said to my husband one day, oh, anybody can do that. And he looked at me, he said, you better get on your knees and beg God some forgiveness. He is giving you a talent, a skill. I'm like, what you talking about, Willis? But I had to believe it. I had to receive that because it was easy to me. So I felt like that couldn't be it because it's too easy. That's why God gave it to you. Knock upside the head. He gave you what's easy because that is your gift, your skill. For Gabby, it's art. Like she's able to create what I couldn't put two stick figures together. So you have to know what the thing that makes your soul sing and then how to create a model around that you can get paid for it. Like Kelly bringing joy, she brings joy through her projects, through media. That's who she is. That's why her father named her Joy. She's walking in the anointing of the name. Okay, I'm getting excited, Miss Mary. Let me go ahead and mute, let Kelly talk. I'm sorry. I love what I
It's
did.
so
Okay.
wonderful. I love you.
I do
I'm
too.
laughing because your husband is right. I saw you on CNN when I was laying in the bed in New Orleans sick or something. And I said, who is this woman who is incredible? I told you that when we chatted. But I would say it's similarly to both of you. What is your gift and how do you want to live? What do you want in your life? What are the 3 words that you want? How do you want to live your life? So 3 words. For me, it's peace, love, and joy. That's it. And so my goal, and as an entrepreneur, is how do I create a life of abundance that's peaceful and loving and full of joy? And so whatever those words are for you, I think then how do you create that life that with that vision, using your gifts, your God-given gifts? I think that's the key. And then taking a risk and knowing that there's a higher power that's got your back. If, whatever that belief may be. But I really do believe that there's a whole notion about faith over fear because, and like you said, entrepreneurial, there's no day off, there's no holiday, there's no, oh, it's the weekend. Okay. Yeah, we have meetings. So it's a different type of lifestyle. But if you love what you do, it doesn't feel like it's work. It feels like it's part of your mission in life.
Here's a question that I'm going to ask you to address, and that is, how do you go about establishing your business? Who did you consult?
So depending on where you are with your capacity and your resources, there are business consultants, there are attorneys, there are accountants, but how about going for the free information? The Small Business Administration has offices all across the country if you're in the United States, and you can go in and get free information and resources of how to structure your business, how to create a business plan. I happen to also be the chair of another board called Workshop and Business Opportunities, and it's another resource that allows you to just do that discovery work. What is it that you really want to do? Where does your passion lie? How do you set up a team and give you some of that fundamental information and advice? AARP has workshops and information like we're here as a result of this partnership, giving content and information. So online, there's so much that you can find, but as easy as it is to find Small Business Administration regional offices, look for one in your area. They're looking for those who want to start businesses. This particular administration has invested in small businesses and wants to, continue to do that. So just look up Small Business Administration, look for your regional office. I'm shamefully putting that plug in because I'm the vice chair of another hat that I wear and the representative for SBA. So getting that resource out is one of the best ways to start exploring. And then when you have the capacity, you can invest in other coaching opportunities, business development companies, attorneys, accountants who offer that. So just get started. Don't delay. That's the impetus of what we're saying here tonight, if you have something on your heart, in your mind that you feel that you
Right.
want to do, don't procrastinate.
Right.
Just go ahead and do it, because while you're thinking about it, somebody else is executing. So go ahead and share your gift with the world. There's only one you, and nobody can do you the way you can do you. But if you don't do anything, then what are we going to do? That was a cute rhyme. All right, I'm done.
That's good.
Thank
was
you
great.
so much. Here's a question. How do you handle naysayers? And you know that happens a lot.
I just keep it moving. I smile and keep it moving. And, if you don't have naysayers, you don't, you want that. They're always going to, the more you're doing great things in the world, the more you're going to have haters.
That's true.
And don't let yourself, what Michelle Obama says, when they go low, we go high. Let them.
Well, there's two other things I want to build on what my sister
Please.
just said. For those who are people of faith, the Lord will prepare a table in front of
That's
your
right.
enemies. That's my version. That's not
That's
King
it.
James.
That's
But
right.
in addition, I tell folks, if you find yourself dimming your light, because I used to do that. So I just want to share that with everyone. Don't dim your light, because that doesn't help anyone else. If people around you can't experience who you are for the greatness that's inside of you, and they can't take your shine, offer them a coupon for a pair of sunglasses, because your shine allows other people to feel free enough to shine. Somebody's going to watch Gabby tonight, and they're going to think about their daughter, or they're going to think about their goddaughter. They're like, you need to come look at Gabby,
Absolutely.
right? Because she is shining her light. Someone's going to hear what Kelly just shared about her father naming her intentionally, but she was just running, that she wasn't living the joy that she was named for. And that's going to touch them. Somebody's just going to laugh at me and they'll feel better tonight. But the purpose of doing what you do is because somebody else needs to see your example. Somebody else needs to know that it's okay to be who you are in the world, because we're not carbon copies. Each of us are here to do what we've been put here to do. And we could all have the same business, but not get the same experience, because you're going to put your special on it. And that is for somebody else who's looking for you, looking for your product, looking for your service. And if you don't shine, then you leave us all at a deficit. Okay, I promise. That's it, Miss Mary. I'm going to behave.
That's it.
Hey, we're learning so much tonight. This is wonderful. So I think okay, I'm sorry. Please, Gabby, please.
I just wanted to touch on the how do you handle naysayers question a little bit. I did this really interesting workshop with my team recently, and we were talking a lot about identity and how to maintain confidence. And one of the things they had us do was we had to write a list of characteristics that are our core. So no matter the day, no matter what's going on, who are you at your core? And these are things that don't shift no matter what anyone else is saying, no matter what's going on. This is who you are. And I think that's a big helping hand, because sometimes you're not having the best day. Sometimes the naysayers, they might get to you because you might be feeling down, because it might not be going that well. But having that list and knowing that at the end of the day, I'm still this person. This is what I've done. This is what I have. It's a helpful way just to get over those haters.
This has been so rich, so wonderful. And we're going to put up a slide right now so that the audience and panelists will know how to contact each other. So we're going to show your website. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing. This has been rich. We've learned so much tonight, and I want to thank you everyone for being here tonight. This has been an informative and amazing conversation. I hope all of you have been inspired like I've been. We have 3 more webinars remaining this month. The webinars are held on every Thursday this month at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. We invite you to register to join us and invite others to tune in as well. Thank you to our instructor, our panelists, our sponsors, and national collaborating organizations. I also appreciate all of you who joined us, whether you are watching on Zoom, Facebook, or YouTube. Thank you, everyone, and have a good night.